Welcome back to the Reentry Room. This is the space where we stop pretending that working motherhood has to look one certain way and we start telling the truth about what it actually feels like. I'm Alexa Starks. Do you know me? I'm a workplace culture innovator, a coach for working moms, a mom of two toddlers, and the founder of Executive Moms. And I help moms navigate the return to work transition after maternity leave and the motherhood identity shifts and all of it that comes with motherhood. Today, I have with me the fabulous guest, Laura Niebauer. Please tell me I said that correctly.
You did. Yes. That's
Oh,
awesome.
thank God. Okay. That was like 50-50 in my mind.
You
So,
nailed it. It's
phew.
either Niebauer or Niebauer that I get, but you nailed it.
Okay. Okay. But Laura, you are a job search strategist, career woman for helping women re enter the workforce after a career break, which is a lot of times what women go through after taking some time off to be a stay at home mom. So please welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited. I love what you're doing. This resource is so critical, and the more we talk about these topics, the better. So thank you. Thank you for
Ah,
having this.
thank you. Definitely the more awareness about this. I mean, so many of us moms struggle with the same things. And so the more resources we can get to working moms, the better. But please, for all the listeners, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are.
Yes. So I am a mom as well, and I stepped away from my HR career 7 years ago. So I have been working in HR for small companies, Fortune 500 companies, all that, and it was a lot. And so when my son was born, we made the decision that I would step back from my HR career. And I did stay at home a bit, but then I decided, okay, I wanted to return to work in some capacity, but I did not want to return to the HR world. I did not want to return in a full-time capacity, and I didn't know what I wanted. And I really struggled during that time to figure out not only what I wanted, but how what I wanted matched with what I needed as a mom. And it was a lot more difficult than I had anticipated because I thought, hey, I've worked in HR. I know how the job search process works. But it was more challenging. So I was eventually able to pivot to a completely new career. It was a remote position before remote positions were as common as they are. And I worked in that job for 6 years. And then at the end of last year, it always was in my heart to help other women who were navigating the same path. And I said, you know what? I'm now in my 40s. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to step back once again from my career and focus on helping other women return to the paid workforce after career break. So I started not knowing what I was doing. I mean, I knew what I was doing. I just didn't know how to get the ball rolling with that. So I actually ended up starting with focus groups with other women. And that was very eye-opening for me because I thought a lot of the things I was struggling with were just a me thing. The
Yeah.
questions that I had, the not knowing exactly what it is I was going to, the doubts I had, the guilt I had, all of those things I realized were pretty common across
Yes, they
most
are.
women who are looking to return. And so from there, I created a course which I ended up partnering with, I'm in Austin, with our Austin library system
Hmm.
to go to different libraries to offer this course, which is my career relaunch blueprint course. And from there, I had women say, how do I work with you? And I was like, oh, so this is a thing. This is a thing. And so the past year has been such a wonderful growth opportunity for me, but also amazing to meet so many women who are accomplished and who are amazing, but unfortunately because of a career break have made them doubt themselves and wonder
Hmm.
what their next step is. And I have been able to help women re-enter the paid workforce on their terms, and it's been such a blessing. And I'm even more grateful that I took that risk last year because it is something that is both fulfilling and uses all the stuff that I had done prior, and it ended up with me being here. And I think that's what a lot of women, struggle with. Like, how does everything I did in the past and during my career break equal my future? And sometimes it's not the straight linear path that you think it might be. In fact, it's oftentimes not. But you have all of the skills and talents and abilities. It's just a matter of figuring out how you want to use them and then packaging them correctly. And every time there's a woman that I'm meeting through a workshop or one-on-one, and they always start off with like, I'm just not sure. And I'm like, that's an okay place to start, and we'll get you there.
Oh, I love what you do. Honestly, it's so needed and it's so amazing. And what you talk about of not knowing what you want to do and taking what you've done and kind of applying it to what you could do. That's what I did, right? Like I left my corporate career and was like, I had a bad experience with maternity leave. I was like, how can I make it better and build a company? And so it's such a hard thing to be an entrepreneur or go back to the workforce, um, especially when you've taken a break and kind of get your mind back into things. And especially with, I see all these layoff notifications and
Yes.
headlines nowadays. And so I know it's just harder and harder to get a job, especially if it's remote because you're competing with everyone across the nation instead of just locally. So really quick tactically, is it more resume help? Is it like, are you walking them through like interview prep, one-on-one coaching? Like, what does working with you look like?
So this is what I've actually found, and this was trial and error, because I would work with people one off, like, oh, you need resume help or you need some interview prep. What I have found works best is to go from point A to point whatever their point is, Z. So I will do one-off interview preps, but the majority of my clients I work with from what is it that you want to do? And we spend a lot of time figuring that out, having the clarity before they even start their job search. And I think this is so key, because you're wasting time if you're just applying and hoping that something will land. Because if you do that and something lands, but it's not something you actually want, then you're back in the same position of making the decision of what you want. So we get clear on that early. And then from there, we work on their resume. And then from there, we work on, before what they want to get clear on and their resume. My big thing is networking throughout. Networking to understand what it is you want, because the only way you truly understand a career or a profession or industry is to learn from other people. And I do believe women are amazing that way, that we do surround ourselves. We are surrounded by women who want to help us. Like, we know what it's like to be in that position of, well, a lot of women do, as far as taking a career break and trying to navigate back. And it is amazing when I work with men. They're like, oh my gosh, I reached out to this woman. I didn't think she was going to get back to me, but she's been great. And I'm like, yes, because I truly believe we want to support each other.
Yeah.
So networking throughout, but yes, so clarity, resumes, follow-ups, networking, interviewing, and then negotiating too, because it's a process, and it's something that unfortunately most of us were just never taught how to do. We graduate high school, and if we go into the workforce, you just figure it out. If you go to college, you get some more education. Maybe you have a career counseling center. Maybe you use them, maybe you don't, but then you just have to figure it out. And being on the other side of the hiring table for so long, I'm like, there is a strategy here. There are ways that are going to help you stand out, to not just be another number in the resume pile. And once you have those skills, they're going to be lifelong skills. So that's why it's so important to focus on that.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. That's so amazing. We'll dive into some big action tips at the end.
Okay.
But right now, I want to jump into the meat of our episode, which is either the confession chair, where you give a big confession, or a what she knows, where you talk about like your biggest life lesson that you've learned. So which one are we doing today?
We're going to go with the confession today.
All right, let's do it. What is your big confession?
So my confession is that I resented my husband when we were both working, because he was treated differently in the workplace than I was. And it's almost like when our son was born, it was just something that happened in his life. But for me, it was my life. And that's how it was approached within the workplace. And there are a couple of examples that pop out right away. So when I did go back to work, it was in a part-time capacity, and I was very clear what those hours were. And I remember there was a client who requested a meeting, and my boss, who knew that it was outside of my hours, instead of saying, oh, either that doesn't work or, let me check with Laura, he simply said, oh, Laura can't do that because she's on mommy duty. And I'm just like, I don't ever recall that happening to my husband. Yeah. And I was just so resentful that he didn't have to deal with this, that I had to double down on my work to prove myself. And I felt as though even though I was in a part-time capacity, I needed to ramp it up even more to produce, to prove that I was worthy of this job. And I am a stellar worker, always have been, but I felt as though I had to just go out of my way. And I hated that. And I was so resentful that my husband never felt that way. And there's another example, and this one was just, so my position was remote, I would say 98% of the time, but we would have strategic meetings about twice a year. And we had a strategic meeting scheduled for the end of the year. So it was December something. Well, I told my husband, I was like, okay, so I need you to watch our son during this time. Okay, sure, no problem. But then his boss, last minute, wanted to have a holiday get-together. A holiday get-together for his team. And it's very, very small. So it's not like you could just skip out. There's like 3 of them. And so I said, okay, well, is there any way, you could reschedule this? I already have this one. And he's like, it's the only time he can do it. And I just have to, but I'm going to make sure I get out at a certain time. And then you'll only have to take, our son with you for like 30 minutes to the meeting. And I'm like, okay, so wait, I have to take my son, who's a baby, to our meeting. Okay, fine. This is as moms, we just say, okay, fine, we'll figure it out, right? So I took him, time he's 7 months and 30 minutes, comes and goes. I check my phone, 45 minutes. And I'm like, what the heck? And all of a sudden it's a text from my husband. He's like, I'm so sorry, this is running over. My boss he wants us to stay a little bit longer. And an hour goes by. My kiddo is getting tired. He's getting hungry. I'm embarrassed. I just feel so flustered, right? And by the time my husband got there, it was, an hour and a half later, and he took him, and I was so angry. And I was so resentful the fact that for him, it was just expected that you get the time. For me, I had to figure out how to work and how to be a mom at the exact same time while trying to maintain a level of professionality. Yeah. And it was one of the worst feelings of like, why is our system set up like this? Because we don't have family where we live. So we didn't have anybody to, drop them off. And, when you're expecting, it's going to be a half hour and then it ends up an hour and a half, it's not like you can just call a babysitter, right? And so in seeing that throughout, my personal experience, but also friends and family that have also dealt with that, where the women are just expected to make it work somehow, or expected to figure it out, while the men, it's just kind of like, well, you'll figure it out. You got this, right? And I'm saying my husband is wonderful. I just don't think it
doesn't click the same
connects.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing. And that's such a crazy, wild story. And I so feel this so deeply, because my husband and I, we also both worked remotely, but it was also this expectation of like, if I had a meeting and the baby was up, I would watch him, and I would just juggle my meeting and the baby awake at the same time. And I'd be like, oh yeah, he's in the background, like no big deal. But then he would go into his office and take a meeting, and I'd be with the baby. And it's just this expectation or assumption, and it just feels like ingrained at this point. And so I think, because you have an HR background, so as a former HR person, what's the solution to this for workplaces?
Well,
how do we change this?
I can definitely tell you. So the last company that I worked for before I stepped away from the HR career, or my HR career, was a Fortune 500 company, and they offered the exact same leave for both parents. And that alone was a game changer. Obviously, we have a long way to go in the US as a whole, but for a company to offer the same 12 weeks fully paid regardless if it's the mother or the father, is a huge thing. And it sounds like a small thing because it just should be. I mean, it should be. But if more companies would at least start there, because if you are a parent who is not the primary caregiver, you don't understand what that truly means. In those first 3 months, if you're fully stepped out of that for 8 to 10 hours a day, you don't fully recognize. And I think that's key, is the time, the paid time, yes, but then the understanding, the empathy that comes with that when you realize all that is involved. Because if you never see it, you don't truly ever understand it.
Yeah. And just how hard it is.
Yes. And my husband didn't get any paid leave. So
That's hard.
for me it was day one. I had to figure it out, and I think that's something we fail as. We fail our parents, and we fail our kids, and we fail our families with the way that our current system is set up. And fortunately, there are companies that recognize it and that are doing the right thing, but unfortunately, there are a number of others that aren't. So that's my base level first step.
Yeah. So what can working moms do to help fix this problem?
So something I wish I knew is just to have those honest conversations with my husband. But at the same time, I wasn't even sure what those conversations would look like because neither of us had been in the position. But I would say as soon as you start having those conflicts come up, because they will, especially if you're both working, there's going to be times when something's going to overlap, and to set the expectations early. Don't let it fester. Don't let it become something more. I do believe, I hope, the majority of fathers also want to be involved. And so if you have those conversations early, saying how it impacts you, also the importance of him being just as involved, and you have that equal true partnership, then I think that is so key. And also having the conversations with your boss. For me, when my boss said that about, oh, she's on mommy time, I had to tell him, like, I'm not okay with that, because
Did you actually say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for
I
you.
let him
Yes.
know.
I talk about self-advocacy all the time, and it is so hard to get
It
into that
is.
uncomfortable position.
And the thing is, like, he made me uncomfortable, but then I was worried about making him uncomfortable. It's just
Yes, yes.
like, wait,
Ugh.
what? What's going on here? And having that, and it shouldn't be our jobs. Like, it's one more thing that as women we have to do. But if we don't do it, the alternative is it's not said. And if it's not said, then nothing changes. So I hate the fact that you're adding one more thing to your plate, but hopefully that one thing will help the next employee and, the way that they handle these situations going forward.
I love this. Thank you so much for sharing again. I mean, this resonates. I know there's going to be so many other moms who feel the same thing or went through a very similar situation. This just resonates so deeply. Okay, let's wrap up. I want to go back to what you do with the career coaching,
Yes.
and helping moms with that. What would be your biggest piece of advice that you would give working moms about the career coaching and everything you do?
Okay. So one thing, and this is when you're either returning from a career break or you're looking to pivot careers, I think you need to know the difference between taking a step back to move forward and taking a step back because you're undervaluing yourself. And that's something that I see a lot, that of the women that I work with, and is that understanding, because there's either two camps. It feels like either you just have to get your foot back in the door or you have to take something. I don't believe that. That's undervaluing yourself. And then there's others like, never take a step back. You're worth all this. And I'm like, there are times when you need to take a step back to take a step forward. And realizing when that is, because that is going to serve you much better than blanket statements. And I'll give you an example. I have a client, and she actually realized fully that she's like, what I want to go into, I don't have experience with. But I was offered a position within the industry, which is not where I was financially before, but it allows me to get the experience while getting paid, making the connections, and having that experience. I'm like, that's a great step back to move forward. I've also had a client and she's like, ooh, should I take this position? It's only $10 an hour, but I need to like get my foot in the door. And I'm like, well, is it your foot in the door and something you want? She's like, no, but it's back in the workforce. And I was like, $10 an hour.
Yeah. Or
Like,
I just need to get money for my
yeah.
family. And so it's like anything goes. You'll take
Yeah.
anything first.
So I think it's being very clear. And I think that's the other component is just being clear and being honest with yourself. We have this idea of like, I call it the sunk cost fallacy, which I know is an actual term. It's not like I made that up, but it's, I've already put in the time. I've already put in the money. I've already put in the effort. And it's hard to let go of that, especially if you are taking a career break and then returning. You're thinking, yeah, but I already worked for 15 years in that field, or that's what my degree is in. It's just silly if I don't go back to it. But I like to ask them, okay, what does a fulfilling life look like to you? And how does your next role fit into that? If it doesn't lead to an overall fulfilling life, it's okay to let go of what you think you should do. Because ultimately, your happiness means that you are happy on all levels. Your personal, your professional, all of that. And it's okay to let go. Just like, I mean, I did that. Like, I don't even think I've ever used my undergraduate degree. And I mean, it's in marketing, which I don't think I ever touched it. And I was like, I could look at it as like, oh, I really need to use that because I spent all that time and that money on it. Or I can say, you know what? I took what I needed from that experience. Yeah. It's led me here and it's going to get me there. And so, yeah, those are my two big things, being clear and understanding what moves you forward in the right way.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Laura. Where can we find you? Where can we find you online on the internet?
So I actually have a YouTube channel, which was a crazy thing. It's still funny to say that because I never saw myself in that realm. But it's at Laura Niebauer, and I offer job search advice, and then I also offer specific advice for career breakers. And then my website is lauraniebauer.com, and email is laura@lauraniebauer.com. So I like to keep it nice and simple.
No idea why the video decided to drop off at the end of this episode, so apologies for any of the technical difficulties, but thank you so much, Laura, for being here. And if this episode hit home for any moms, please share it with another mom that you know in the trenches of motherhood or early postpartum life or working motherhood. And we will see you on the next episode of the Reentry Room. Thank you.